with the bird. It has the bird-shaped form, like it is the wings, this is the head, and this is the eyes of this bird. What the function of it? It forms the base of our skull. That's why our sphenoid bone mainly located in the base of the skull, and it forms base of our skull. Right, please. Sphenoid bone has five important parts. Part number one. Look everybody here, please. Look firstly, then you will write. Part number one, the middle part of the bone. Look here, please. The middle part of the bone. The middle part of the bone. We call the body of the sphenoid bone. Let's say this is the body of sphenoid bone. I'm not sure that you see it. It's a body of sphenoid bone. In the picture, it's great visible. Second part, the biggest part. Look here, please. I now attach the bone in this biggest part. We call the greater wings of sphenoid bone. This is the greater wings of sphenoid bone. Part number two. Part number three is very small, my friends. Look here, please. It's located up to the greater wings. And we call it the lesser wings of sphenoid bone. The lesser wings of sphenoid bone. Look here, please. This is the lesser wings of sphenoid bone. And finally, guys, the last fourth part or fifth part, I don't know, it is the pterygoid process. It is like the legs of this bird. The pterygoid process, which is passed to downwards. The pterygoid process of sphenoid bone. Let's make conclusion. We understand that sphenoid bone has the middle part, which we call the body. Laterally to the body, we have the greater wings. Up to greater wings, we have the lesser wings. And below the body, we have the pterygoid processes of sphenoid bone. Now we will describe each part. Right, please. Part number one, body of sphenoid bone. Body of sphenoid bone. Body of sphenoid bone. Now look please here. If I will look on the base of skull, this part will be the body of sphenoid bone. This is the lesser wings. This is the greater wings. The pterygoid process will be down. Let's say look everybody here. This is the body of sphenoid bone. This is the lesser wings. Lesser wings and pterygoid processes. You see it or no? Body, greater wings, the lesser wings, and pterygoid process. Now look please, inside, just in mid part of our body, we have depression, which is great development visible. Look on the picture, this depression. We call it sella turcica, the Turcic cell, Turkish cell. Do you see by my pen I show for you depression? Sella turcica. It is very good developed depression. It's located just in midpoint of inner surface, and it's the place of location of hypophysis. Just the bottom of this sella turcica we call fossa hypophysalis, and it is the place of location of hypophysis. Remember it, please. Behind of sella turcica we have dorsum of Turcic cell, the back of Turcic cell. It's great visible here in the bone. This is the back of the Turkish cell. Back of the Turkish cell. This is Turkish cell. This is back of the Turkish cell. It's great visible. Of the Turkish cell, you can see the protrusion, which we call it tuber chiasmatica, because it's located just below the chiasma optica. Tuber chiasmatica, look please here. Let's say behind we have dorsum of the Turkish cell, in front we have tuber chiasmatica. Now imagine this situation. Now 1 minute attention. My table, it is tuber chiasmatica. The back of my chair, it is dorsum sella turcica. Between them we have sella turcica, with lowest depression, which we call fossa hypophysalis. Let's say once again, I'm hypophysis. I'm located in sella turcica. In front of me we have tuber chiasmatica. Behind of me we have dorsum sella turcica. This is sella turcica. Now look here, please. Surround of this sella turcica, we have three processes. We call it the clinoid processes or cliniform processes. Posterior clinoid process, located on the tips of dorsum sella turcica. Anterior located in the lesser wings. Middle located just in right and left sides of sella turcica. I don't know it's good visible here or not. I think it's not so good visible. Maybe I will show in next picture. Here it's better visible. Look here, please. This is fossa which we call sella turcica, fossa hypophysalis. Look, two processes anteriorly, two processes posteriorly, and two processes in the sides. That's why we can say that clinoid processes surrounded our sella turcica from all the sides. Two anterior, two posterior, and two lateral. Anterior will be in lesser wings. It's great visible, yeah, in the lesser wings. Posterior will be in dorsal, and middle will be, or lateral, will be just on the body of sphenoid bone. Let's remember, please, once again, sella turcica anteriorly bordered by our tuber chiasmatica, posteriorly by the dorsal. From all the sides we have clinoid processes, two anteriorly, two posteriorly, and two middle or lateral. Idea is understandable for you. Now look everybody on the superficial surface of the head. Before we speak about inner surface, now superficially. Superficially, just the midline on the body, we have very good developed crest. We call it crista sphenoidea. It is like the, how we call the part of the bird? The nose of the bird. Beak. Okay. Let's say this is like the nose of the bird. And it is finished by the rostrum sphenoideum. Let's say crista sphenoidea and rostrum. This is place of attachment with ethmoid bone, guys. Let's say ethmoid bone will be attached to the sphenoid bone in this place. Let's say once again, crista, and finally it is finished by the rostrum. In two sides of this crista we have concha sphenoidea. It is the lateral part, concha sphenoidea. On the concha sphenoidea there are apertures. We call it foramen sphenoideum, which goes to sphenoid sinus. Let's say once again, anteriorly we have sphenoid crest, which is finished by the rostrum. In two sides of the crest we have concha sphenoidea. On the concha sphenoidea, like the icis of the bird, we have apertures of sphenoid sinus. It's great visible here. This is crest, this is rostrum, this is apertures, and they goes to the sphenoid sinus, sinus sphenoideus. This is second sinus which we study together. First one it is frontal sinus, second one it is sphenoid sinus. Remember, after we will see the sinuses in another bones also. Both these sinuses which we study, and frontal and sphenoid, connected with nasal cavity. Let's say, my friends, remember please, this is the body. Now we come to the second part, the biggest part, which we call greater wings. Now look everybody here, the greater wing has 5 surfaces. 5 surfaces. Anterior surface of greater wings, look here please. Anterior surface of greater wing. Look here please. Anterior surface of greater wing forms the lateral part of the orbit. That's like anterior surface of greater wing we call orbital surface. This is orbital surface. It is face to the orbit. Laterally it forms the wall of the orbit. Lateral surface of greater wing we call temporal surface. I show it now for you. Temporal surface. It's located here. Let's say orbital surface, temporal surface. Below the temporal surface, we have infratemporal surface. Between temporal and infratemporal surface, we have infratemporal crest, crista infratemporalis, which is divided temporal. Put your finger here. It is temporal. Now infratemporal. And palpated this crest between them. You see? Let's say this is, look everybody here. Look. This is temporal surface. This is infratemporal surface. And this is the crest which is divided the surfaces to each other. Temporal surface, infratemporal surface, and the crest which is divided them. Let's say this is 3. First surface, my friends, it is look to the maxilla. We call it maxillary surface. Maxillary surface. It is connected with maxilla. And finally, the last biggest surface, which is look inside of the cranial cavity, we call cerebral surface. Let's say once again, guys, look here, please. Anteriorly, we have orbital surface. Laterally, we have temporal surface. Inferiorly, we have infratemporal surface. Near the maxilla, we have maxillary surface. And inside of cranial cavity, we have cranial surface. This is the surfaces of the greater wing. What else I want to give from the greater wing? My friends, look here, please. It's not so good visible in the body, but in the bone, that I will show that it is in the picture. On the greater wing, maybe you will stand up and come here again. You can see 3 apertures. One is upper and medially, second little bit down and laterally, last one the most posterior and the lateral. From superiorly to inferiorly, first aperture we call foramen rotundum. Rotundum, it means round aperture. Below and laterally to it, we have foramen ovale. And below foramen ovale, we have foramen spinosum. Let's say once again, foramen rotundum, foramen ovale, and foramen spinosum. Through each this aperture, important structure is passed. Inside of foramen rotundum, listen, we have maxillary branch of trigeminal nerve. Trigeminal nerve, it is the 5th craniocerebral nerve. That's a maxillary branch of it passed through the foramen rotundum. Inside of foramen ovale, we have mandibular branch of trigeminal nerve, 3rd branch. And inside of foramen spinosum, do you remember 2-3 minutes before, on the parietal bone, I showed the grooves of middle meningeal artery. Middle meningeal artery come to cranial cavity by foramen spinosum. Let's say once again, foramen rotundum, foramen ovale, foramen spinosum. Now look please here, between greater and lesser wings, big fissura will be formed, which we call fissura orbitalis superior. Superior orbital fissura. I insert my pen inside of it, you can see. Let's say it's great visible in the picture. 1 minute, look here please. This is fissura orbitalis superior. It forms between lesser wing and greater wing together. In the both sides of greater wing, between greater wing and the body, you can see good developed groove, which we call sulcus caroticus. It is place of location of internal carotid artery. Let's say, look here please, between greater wing and the body, we have good developed groove, which we call sulcus caroticus. Once again, the biggest artery of cranial cavity, it is internal carotid artery, located inside of this groove, sulcus caroticus, between greater wing and body. Let's continue. Now, my friends, we come to the pterygoid processes. Look please here. This is pterygoid process. It's great visible that our pterygoid process divided into 2 portions. Look here please. Medially we have internal pterygoid plate. Laterally we have external pterygoid plate. This is internal pterygoid plate. This is external. Internal we call medial. External we call lateral. Unfortunately it is partly broken, but look on the picture. On the inferior part of internal plate we have the hook, which we call hamular process, processus hamularis, or hamatus of the process. Let's say, unfortunately, it's broken here. I can show. But the tip of the medial plate, if you come here to speak, go outside. That's a tip of the medial plate finished by the hook, which we call the hamular process. Hamulus, it is the hook. Now look everybody here, please. Little bit up to the lateral plate, we have good developed depression. You can see it here also. We call it fossa pterygoidea. Once again, in the lateral surface of pterygoid plate, lateral plate, you can see fossa. We call it fossa pterygoidea. Up to fossa pterygoidea, we have second depression, which we call fossa scaphoidea. That's two fossas, two depressions, the pterygoid one and the scaphoid one. Fossa pterygoidea, fossa scaphoidea. This place of location of very important nerves, which we will study after. And in the anterior surface, my friends, we have good developed groove, which we call sulcus pterygopalatinus. Unfortunately, again, I say partly it's broken, but you can see this groove, sulcus pterygopalatinus. Sulcus pterygopalatinus. Just on the base of pterygoid process, we have the canal, which we call canalis pterygoideus. The pterygoid vessels and nerves goes to the oral cavity by this canal. Look here, please. Foramen pterygoideum, which is continuous to the canalis pterygoideus. It's located just on the base of pterygoid process. I show it now for you. Sit down now, please. My friends, the lesser wings has horizontal location. They located up to the greater wing. This is the lesser wing. Lesser wing. It is located up to the greater wing. And it has horizontal location. Like I said you before, between lesser and greater wings, we have fissura orbitalis superior. And little bit medially between lesser wing and between body of sphenoid bone, we have sulcus chiasma optica. Sulcus chiasma optica located in front of tuber chiasmatica. This is sulcus chiasma optica. Why we call it sulcus chiasma optica? Because inside of it we have our second cranial cerebral nerve, optic nerves, which is crisscross here and forms the chiasma. That's why this is the groove for optic chiasma. I will put and show now for you. Groove for optic chiasma. The tip of my pen located just inside of this groove. Here inside of this chiasma we will have the formation, inside of this groove we will have formation the chiasma optica. It is crisscrossing of optic nerves. They will be inside of this groove. Let's say remember please, in lateral side between lesser and greater wing we have fissura orbitalis superior. In the medial side between lesser wing and body we have sulcus chiasma optica. Lesser wing gives two processes inside of the cranial cavity, which we call anterior clinoid process. You remember before I say you two processes in front of sella turcica, two processes behind, and two in the side. That's why anterior clinoid processes will be part of lesser wing. It's great visible here. Now we come to the next bone, guys, which we call os ethmoidalis, ethmoid bone. Again, it is single bone. Look here, please. And ethmoid bone has three compartments. Look here, please. You can see that upper part of ethmoid bone has horizontal direction. We call it cribriform plate. Why cribriform? If you attentively will look this horizontal part, you will see a lot of apertures. Cribriform, it means penetrated. Let's say look here, please. This is the horizontal plate or cribriform plate, and you can see a lot of apertures inside of cribriform plate and a lot of apertures. Cribriform plate and a lot of apertures. Why we need to have here apertures? Cribriform plate forms the roof for nasal cavity. And through this aperture, the parts of first craniocerebral nerve is passed, nervus olfactorius, which is responsible for the smell. From nasal cavity, by these apertures, they come to the base of skull. Then they connect it to each other. They forms the tractus olfactorius, which goes to the rhinencephalon. That's why, my friends, inside of cranial cavity, it's great visible. Look here, please. This is the cribriform plate, and this is the apertures of the cribriform plate. Let's say from nasal cavity, the olfactorius nerves will come to the cranial cavity by these apertures of sit down, wait, cribriform plate. Second part of our ethmoid bone, vice versa, guys, you can see located in sagittal plate. We call it vertical plate. That's a superiorly horizontal plate and vertical plate or perpendicular plate. It is the same. Partly, guys, perpendicular plate located up to cribriform one. Partly it's located down the cribriform one. The part which is located up to the cribriform will be visible inside of cranial cavity, and we will call it crista galli. Crista galli. You know, yeah, galli, it is the, how we call it? The male of the chicken.
Cock-a-doodle-doo.
Cock, great, I forget. Cock has this gully in the head, yeah? That's why this one we call crista galli, because it's located inside of cranial cavity like the part of this animal. Let's look here, please, once again. Part of our perpendicular plate will be up to the cribriform. Inside of cranial cavity, we will call it crista galli. It will be just behind of foramen secum. Just behind the foramen secum. Part of it, guys, will be below the cribriform plate, and it will form the nasal septa of which is divided right and left nasal cavities from each other. Let's say once again, partly perpendicular plate located up to the cribriform one. It forms the crista galli, like I showed for you before. Partly it is located down to the cribriform plate, and it forms the septa of our nasal cavity, which is divided nasal cavity into right and left part. And finally, last, third part, located in the lateral side. It is the biggest part of ethmoid bone. We call it the pyramidal part. Inside of the pyramidal part, there are three big air cells. Look here, please. Anterior, middle, and posterior. They good visible from superficially. Anterior, middle, and posterior. These air cells, like a sinus of ethmoid bone, like a sinus of our frontal bone, connected with the nasal cavity. All homework. This is lesson number